Hi.
Ooh. Good morning, Apiwe. Okay, I just need to get this out of the way. The name.
Uh-huh.
Is there an H or is there no H? Because it's something every time it comes to you in the department, it's like Apiwe. It's like, oh no, without the H. So it's without the H.
So, so there's a story behind that. So my name originally has an H,
Okay.
but when I went to do my ID at Home Affairs, my ID came back without an H.
Oh,
So I was just not prepared at the time to go through the drama with Home Affairs to get them to sort out my name.
we get it, Apiwe without the H.
Yes.
Right. What inspired you to start your business and what was your initial vision for it?
Okay, cool. So, what inspired me to start my company? So my company's name is Luminous, and that's kind of like the holdings company. And within it, there are quite a number of other smaller companies, and that's where Enlighten comes in. We've got an IoT project that we're working on, and so on and so forth. So the whole idea behind the company, or what inspired me mostly, is that when I was growing up, I did not have a mathematics and physical science teacher. So I think I picked up from a very young age that, I didn't have a math and science teacher from grade 10 to 12. So we had temporary teachers that would come and go. And I then, a lot of the times, would say I taught myself mathematics until the point where I think when I was in grade 12, my father, or my parents rather, got me a retired teacher to assist me with mathematics, and that assisted me a lot. But I didn't manage to do medicine, which is what I wanted to do at the time, because I only got a level C in mathematics, right? So during that phase of me, like my parents and I literally went to Wusu, Walter Sisulu in what you call this, in Umtata. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
where I wanted to do my medicine. And we went there to beg them and explain to them the situation, but like nobody wanted to listen. So I think from a young age, I picked up the inequalities and irregularities in our system, because I was like, even though I had taught myself mathematics and gotten this level, it didn't matter. They just cared about what was the final mark. So in front of my home, there is a community tap. In fact, there's a school and then there's a community tap. So when it's break, the students from the high school come to the community tap to get water. And I also would go there to fetch water because now I'm a stay-at-home little somebody. So I'd go there, fetch water, and I'd hear a lot of students complaining about how hard mathematics is, how they wanted to quit physical science, and so on and so forth. And I think it happened so frequent such that I realized that I'm not alone. Like someone's got to go out there and make a statement that even as children from the rural areas, we actually have the potential and we can actually make a difference somewhere in the world and we matter, you know? So therefore, when I fell in love with computer science at the University of Fort Hare, I decided, okay, this could be my way of making a difference somewhere in the society. And from that day onwards, I guess I dedicated myself to using technology to benefit the lives of ordinary South Africans, particularly the ones from rural areas. Because the reality is, nobody wants to go and teach in the rural areas. Whether we can debate it all we want, but that is at the core of the problem. We want to use technology to solve socioeconomic factors such as unemployment, education, and the safety of women and kids through IoT. So that's like our main big idea.
Mhm.
Then we have a product now that we have on the market, which is Enlighten Edu, which speaks to the education part of it.
So the second question is, how did you find out about Propella and why did you apply for the ICT program?
How did I find out about Propella? That's a good question. I think I probably saw it on Facebook. Honestly, I think I have a very soft spot for Propella.
Oh, we love that.
because
We love it.
because honestly, that advert, I was going through a lot. Like, I had knocked on so many doors and people had said so many no's. And I think all of these no's were starting to get to my brain. And then I was like, no, man, they're going to come back and they're going to say no. So actually, let me just let it be. Like, I'm so tired. I can't take any more no's right now. I just need one yes. So I stopped. But I think the system gets triggered when you start an application and you don't finish it, because there's a lady. It's so funny that I always forget her. I forgot her name, but there's a lady who kept on calling me and was like, we see that you started your application with Propella, and the deadline is approaching. So can you please finish your application? So she kept on calling me to a point where I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe I must give this a go. Maybe I must just submit all my stuff and see what's going to happen. And that's what I did. And I think at that time in my life, and that's why I have such a soft spot for Propella, like, it was the light that I needed to get to the next point. Because I had actually started building the platform and we had done a pilot and stuff, but it was just getting to a point where it was just quite hard. So when Propella came through for me and they said yes, it was like, okay, this is the light that I needed literally to take my next step, or to show me my next step, because I was in the dark.
And you were also part of the incubatees that went to Africa Arena. So do you mind like sharing a bit about like what happened there, your experience and so forth?
So interestingly, tomorrow I'm going to Africa Arena again.
Wow.
The summit that is here in Johannesburg. And we got tickets. I got tickets for that through an incubatee I met at the Africa Arena at the time when Propella took us there. And we both got that through the AWS. I just forgot his name, but he is the guy that we were introduced to by Propella. So then he got us complimentary tickets to go to Africa Arena in Joburg. So Africa Arena was amazing because I think what really stood out for me there, so Propella had prepared us in terms of our pitches and doing our pitches. But going live and speaking to investors and hearing from them what they are looking for is another experience that you can never explain. Like, because there are certain things that they give you that are specific to your own business or specific to your own category that you're targeting in the market. So I think that's one thing that really stood out for me with Africa Arena, was actually the fact of that, like, we got a chance to speak to the investors live, and we also got to listen to other startups that were pitching their businesses that were also at a much more advanced stage than we are. So at least we also got to look at your pitch and measure it in terms of what the other guys were looking for, listen to the judges giving out their inputs and thoughts, which stood out. The other thing that stood out again was strengthening the community. I cannot strengthen enough the importance of the community, because entrepreneurship is so lonely, guys. So get that community. So we had done our ICT program purely online. So it was the first time I met a lot of the people face to face at the Africa Arena. And I think that's kind of like what strengthened the friendships with the other entrepreneurs. And the fact that also we didn't necessarily come from the same stage. So there were people from stage 5, there were people from stage 4. Yeah. So at least we kind of like got a chance to mingle with people that we actually didn't know that are actually part of Propella. We got to identify synergies where there were synergies, and actually got a chance to like take some of the things or at least form friendships. Actually, I think my biggest achievement from a personal perspective, and I think I attribute that a lot to Propella again, and the mentorship and the program and all of that, is me finding the strength to leave my corporate job and focus on Enlighten full time. Like, that is like my biggest strength. I mean, I still get shivers. I still feel like, oh my gosh, was it the right decision to make? I mean, I had a permanent job and everything was great, and I left it for something that doesn't really make as much money. But I'm glad that I eventually found that strength. And I think I found that strength through the mentorship I had with Linda, through the community I have at Propella, and just the motivation I've seen from other entrepreneurs who are focusing on their businesses full time and who have managed to take it or take their businesses to the next level.
We currently have applications opened for our acceleration program. So as someone that was part of an ICT program, what advice would you give to someone that's considering applying?
I would totally tell them to start. Like, start the application and finish the application, unlike me, who was hesitant to do it. So I definitely say to them, get started, and submit your application. Two, don't start too late completing the application form. The sooner you get started, the better, because the more you go through the questions that you have answered, the more you'll actually see or find better ways to answer the questions. Because remember, a lot of times people are going to see your video. That's all they're going to see. So spend time working on that video, because that's what's going to set you apart from all the others. So my thing is, first write down what you want to have on the video. So write it down, have it down on paper, read it out loud to yourself. And then if you have kids, this worked for me. I read it out to my daughter and my nephew. And if they don't get it, then chances are nobody else will, because they're like 11. So if they don't get it at 11, then it's like, no, people might not get it. There are certain concepts that they might not get to a certain degree, but it gives you a gist of whether what you're saying makes sense or not. So essentially what I'm trying to say is spend time on your application. Don't wait for the last day and that's when you submit it. Spend time on your application, because honestly, like I've been preaching this, and I feel like to a certain degree, people might think that Propella is paying me a lot of money, but geez, guys, Propella played a huge role in you. Like, so also don't take this opportunity for granted. Opportunities like these don't come always. So spend time on your application, start, finish it on time, get people to review it, and submit. We don't have enough time to look back on the journey that we've traveled. So having this conversation also made me like, oh, okay, actually that has happened. I had forgotten about it, like, because, it's easy for us to focus on the negatives, not the positives. So yeah, or the end instead of the journey.
Yeah.
This allowed me to also like look at my journey as well holistically. So
Thank you so much for your time. You really are amazing. You really are.
Thank you.
You're gonna do amazing.